Hello everyone, this is Mohammad Nasim Firdaus and I am here to have this PowerPoint presentation characteristics of human language. So I will be here to carry on this PowerPoint presentation and I hope you all will be enjoying all through this time and the information which is pasted here was taken from George Yule and other sources. So hopefully we will have better understanding on the features or characteristics of human language. And these are today's contents. We will be talking about language, though we have talked about in previous classes, previous slides. We will be talking this particular area features of human language. This will be our prime focus, and we also will look at in a briefly uh, about the differences between human and animal communication system. So these are our contents today. So let's start with the first one, that is language. Okay, till now we know uh, many things about the connection between language and linguistics. Linguistics is the study of language. So definitely we should have better and proper idea on language. And language is ubiquitous. It means its presence. It is everywhere. You cannot skip a language if you live in a society, if you live in this world, you cannot skip it. And according to Noam Chomsky, a language is a set of finite or infinite of sentences, each finite in length and constructed out of a finite set of elements. And according to Wadov, language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols. Yes, language is primarily vocal, so it is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols used for human communication. So uh, we communicate through a language which is not fixed, which is arbitrary, and those vocal symbols, those as arbitrary vocal symbols consists our human language. That's how we communicate with each other. Okay, now lots of clouds in here. When we talk about the features of human language, we will have communication, we'll have arbitrary, we'll have systematic, linguistic, creative, complex, dual, modifiable, social, communicative competence, productive, vocal, non-instinctive, complex, system of systems, and displacement. So there are lots of features we can identify in human language. So it's really a complex phenomenon. So let's see how these features work out in a language. So first one we should look at is language is a means of communication. Before we go through this first one, I should tell you that in this particular PowerPoint presentation, I will be talking about major 10 features. Major 10 features of language. There are a lot more features in there. You will find that in your textbook, and also you can find in your supplementary book as well. And definitely I have uploaded some PDFs, so you can gather more information, you can and identify more features of language from those. So let's start from the first one. Language is a means of communication. Yes, language is a means of communication. That means language is created in order to communicate among human beings. So what do people do with this communication system? They communicate. And what do they communicate? They communicate ideas, they share ideas, emotions, beliefs, or feelings. Of course, there are other means of communication in this communication system. Through any communication system, they share this one. And the other means of communications are gesture, nods, winks, flex, smiles, horns, shorthand, braille alphabet, mathematical symbols, Morse code, sirens, sketches, maps, acting, miming, and dancing. So there are lots of ways to communicate. So these are other ways of communication, but we are talking about something prime. We are talking about something um, uh, which is uh, uh, not limited in terms of sharing, in terms of expressing the feelings or emotions. That's why we know that though there are lots of ways to communicate, but they are not so flexible, they are not so comprehensive, they are not so perfect and extensive as language itself is. So only the vocal symbols we are calling it as language is more flexible, comprehensive, and perfect and extensive comparing to any of this medium of communication. And by this language, what we are calling a language, it can be a carrier of civilization and culture because it will carry the knowledge and information through words, through sentences, that means through language from one person to another person. And it actually uh, transfers the knowledge, the thoughts, and philosophy from one generation to another generation, from one civilization to another civilization, from one culture to another culture. So, what is arbitrary? Arbitrary it is what is not fixed. Not fixed by means that which is not constant for all of the people all around the world. Language has no inherent relation between the words of a language and their meanings. For example, if I say mango, mango, mango is a word, but the object to refer to this particular word, the connection between them, you will not find a connection because those symbols like mango, if we talk about the sounds, mason, ason, nason, gason, and oson, those sound symbols and the particular object, the mango itself, you will not find any connection between them because it was set by different culture, different society, and the people set it according to their beliefs and understanding. So that's why a female adult human being is called a woman in English, Aurat in Urdu, Jen in Persian, Mohila in Bengali, and Femine in French. So this particular female, this word female can be altered through these particular words from different languages. So if it was fixed, if it was not arbitrary, then all the name would be the same. So selection of the words in a language is purely arbitrary. So the way the people choose this particular word to identify female adult human is purely arbitrary. There is no written rules or no there is no convention by which they refer this particular word to that particular object or human being. So, if the language had not been arbitrary, there would have been only one language in the world. So, we know that there are 6,500 to 7,000 languages existing at this moment in this world, and they have different sound system, they have different and grammatical system, they have different and syntactical and morphological system. But if it was fixed, then there would not have been these varieties of language. There would have been only one language. Okay, language is symbolic. Yes, symbolic, that means it depends on the symbols. It consists of various sound symbols, not only sound symbols but also in written form. It has letters, it has words, it has sentences. So it all about symbols, and the symbols are arbitrarily chosen. The symbols are arbitrarily chosen. That means those symbols are not there are not fixed criteria uh, uh, against choosing those symbols. and those symbols are conventionally accepted and employed, and they were accepted by those group of human beings, and they accepted it conventionally, and then they employed it. And that's why words in a language are not mere signs or figures, but symbols of meaning. So what you are seeing, even in this particular slide, these particular symbols, symbols which refer as letters, they are not mere signs. They have the meaning, because by gathering all these symbols together, you have one particular meaning in your mind. So that's why those symbols are not mere signs, they are symbols of meaning. Yes, though it is symbolic, but still it is systematic. Systematic means it follows some particular system. The system is like that. In each human languages, they are finite in terms of words, in terms of letters, in terms of sounds, and those finite sign sets are arranged infinitely. For example, you have A to Z 26 letters in English, and definitely you will find 5 to 6 lakhs words in the dictionary. So somehow it is limited, but with these words, with these letters, you produce infinite set of sentences, because by those 26 letters you can produce unlimited sentences. So that's why it can be arranged infinitely. And all languages have phonological, morphological, grammatical, and semantical system. So we talked about the languages which are existing at this moment. All languages have those phonological, morphological, grammatical, and semantic system. That means they have sound system, they have word system, they have sound pattern, sentence pattern system, and of course they are for the meaning. Those symbols refer the meanings. Okay, so still it is a system, but we can call it as language is a system of systems. So we understand a system, but what is system of systems? System of systems refers how this particular variety comes from. For example, if we talk about Bangladesh, so in Bangladesh we have lots of universities. So primarily we can separate two categories. One is public and one is private. And under private university, we can categorize as different universities according to the regions. And in a university, you can categorize section with different departments. And under every department, you can separate with morning batch and evening batches. So that's how it actually arranges, and it have a system, and within the system you will find another system in there, and that also happens in a language, and that's why it is not an amorphous, a disorganized or chaotic combination of sounds. So that's why language is not a disorganized as or a chaotic combination of sounds. There are a definite pattern for that. There are particular pattern to produce or to create sounds, words, and sentences. So you need to follow this one, because there are grammatical systems, there are morphological systems, there are phonological systems. So those phonological and grammatical systems, and within a system there are several subsystems as well. For example, under grammatical system you will find morphological and syntactical system. Both of them are grammatical, and after that you will find in grammatical section plural, mood, aspect, tense. So another subsystem, and under tense you will find present tense, past tense, and future tense, and under present tense you will find more tenses, more categories in there. So it all works a system within a system. Okay, next one that is I consider is mostly valuable, because language, what we call language, is primarily vocal, refers that every language has started with its vocal format, not with the written format, with a spoken format. So that's why a language is primarily made up of vocal sounds, and those sounds are produced by physiological articulatory mechanism. So we are talking about the mechanism of the sounds. Which sounds are produced by the speech organs. Speech organ means our lips, our teeth, our tongue, and other organs which actually help us to produce sounds from any kind of language. And writing as an intelligent attempt to represent vocal sounds. Yes, because if somehow your sounds cannot be reached to the person whom you are communicating, then you have to produce some kind of recorded. And for that recorded attempt, writing was invented. So that's why it was referred as intelligent attempt. Speech is primary, writing is secondary for every language. A number of modern gadgets like the telephone, the tape recorder, the dictaphone, etc. only go to prove the primacy of speech over writing. So most of the gadgets you find that they are mostly based on your vocal system. So that actually proves that at any kind of language by which we talk, we share our feelings and experiences are primarily vocal. Okay, language is a social phenomenon. So language is a social phenomenon. That means language exists in a society. If we talk about a society, we know that what are the issues or what are the things which present in a society. And you cannot skip language from it, because if a language is not used in any society, it dies out. In other case, we can say that there is no society available at this moment in this world where there is no language. So as a part of society, language has different aspects. It almost work like human beings, because language is of the people, by the people, for the people, like a like democracy. So it cannot stay without the people, and the people actually use the language, and it is for the people only, because you never heard an animal to produce and communicate through a language. So that's why it is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And language is a possession of a social group. Yes, in a social group, it actually possesses a social group actually possesses language, which permits members to relate to each other. So how they will relate each other? They will interact. They will interact with each other. They will cooperate with each other by what? By language. So that's why language is called a social phenomenon. Language is non-instinctive. Non-instinctive means non-mechanical. Instinctive means mechanical. That is very natural. So very natural in the sense that what comes around, what is a very fixed way. We can easily give an example of any machine. If you talk about a light, if you talk about a fan, if you talk about a refrigerator, everything works in a particular order. It almost never breaks those order. But if we talk about language, it actually breaks the order. It is not mechanical, because language is the outcomes of evolution and convention. It actually changes. It changes from one generation to another generation, one social group to another social group, and one convention to another convention. And that's why language change, language die, languages change, languages die, languages grow, and languages expand. For example, the Bangla language, the Bangladeshi people who use Bangla language, the Bengali people who use Bangla language, are changed from a remote version of another language. So it actually changes, and the previous forms they dies, and the present form they grows and they expands. So that's the feature of a language, and it is non-instinctive because nobody gets the language in heritage. He or she acquires it. If we compare with the animals, for example, if we talk about a cat, if we talk about a dog, the way they produce sounds, the way the cat produce sounds, the generation by generation, all the cats produce the same sounds. A cat cannot bark. It cat never barked. And at the same time, or in other way, we can say that no animal changed their sounds, but human did, human changed from one language to another language, from one generation to another generation. So that's one of the differences between human and animal communication system. Animal communication system is instinctive. That is, they are very instinctive. Their sounds are instinctive. But if we compare to human language, they are non-instinctive. They are changeable. They are not inherited. People acquire that language. That's how you acquired Bangla language or English language or other languages. I acquired my native languages and other languages. We have to, human has to acquire a language. Duality, yes, like a dual cut seam, language has dual functions. That's why it is very different than animal communication system. It consists of two subsystems, and those are sound and meaning. Sound and meaning. These two subsystems actually produce meaningful sound phrases. Sounds unit can be grouped and regrouped into units of meaning, and they can generate further functional constituents of the higher hierarchical order. So we produce sounds, and then we join those sounds to produce words, and by those words we produce sentences, and by sentences we generate meaning. So that's how we had the system of sound and meaning, and only human languages have this dual system. Other communication system like animal, they do not have these dual functions. Their communication system are unitary. That means only one function they can deliver. Displacement, this is a very interesting one. Displacement, if you can segment it as displaced and meant. So we are talking about the presence of language, as we said that it is everywhere. So the feature itself, displacement, refer that it is not limited to a situation, to a place, or to any object, because any person, any human being and uh, can use language is use language removed from the scenario, removed from the time. For example, I am here in 2020, but I can talk about 1900, I can talk about 2016, even I can talk about 2030. So it doesn't matter. So for example, I am here in Bangladesh, I am here in Dhaka, I can still talk about New York, I can still talk about Australia, I can still talk about England. So language doesn't limit me to any particular place, any particular situation, or any particular time. We can talk about anything and about any place. Human beings can even narrate events in which they were not involved. Animals cannot. So I can talk about in a situation where I was not involved. I can talk about your situation. I can talk about your position where I was not involved, or I am not involved at this moment, or whether I will not be involved. Still, I can talk about that. But if we talk about animals, they cannot. They cannot narrate the events. They were not present. They cannot share their expressions and feelings as outside of their situations or places or time. Okay, but I say that we'll be talking about the major features, but here are the other features. Language is productive. That means the language, you can produce lots of the things in a language. You can produce new words, new dimensions, new terms in a language, and it is unique. That's why we can find different languages in there. It is creative. That's why you can find lots of words in there, new creations in there. It is complex. The way language is set up, the positions of different words in there. For example, the grammatical patterns in there, it is a complex one. And of course, it is modifiable. It is not fixed. So it can be modifiable, and it is modified from time to time. We already have the class. If you have this class of history of English language, you can see that how far English language has changed from this early period to this modern one. So language is both linguistic and communicative competence. So it's all about the use of language. It's all about developing the competencies, is the ability to use the language. So it is both a linguistic and communicative competence. Language is human and structurally complex. It has the humanness feature. That means the way human develop, the way human acts, it has those same kind of pattern, and it is structurally complex. If we look about a structure of a sentence, we can find it a complex one. And language is culturally transmitted. Yes, we can transmit our culture. We can transmit our language from culture to culture, one culture to one another culture. We can easily do that. Okay, so here are the differences between human communication system and animal communication system. I would like you to look closely about this one, human versus animal communication system. Look at it here, communication system. We are not talking that or referring that as a language, because we cannot say that animal communication system, we cannot refer animal communication system as language, because it is limited. The system is a closed system, and it is without variety, and it is inherited. Uh, the dog inherits the sounds from its previous generation, and of course it is unchangeable. It doesn't change. It remains same. It is constant. On the other hand, human communication system, which we refer as language, not the other ways of communication system, but as language, it is unlimited. It has open system. It is infinite. It is changeable. It is acquired, and it is cognitive. Yes. So you have to understand it. You need to understand it to use. And there are definite patterns in there, definite rules in there, definite principles in there to produce a language. Whether the animal communication does not have those kinds of features. So the features we have been looking at from last 25 minutes and there. So all those features you cannot find and find and this kind of communication system in animals. For example, we know that somehow some animals they communicate themselves. For example, the bees, for example, the dolphins, and other animals who communicate themselves. And even we can hear human sounds from the beak of different birds like parrot, but still we cannot say that is a language, because okay, this will be answered by you. Because of what? I am putting a gap in there. So I will be wanting an answer. I'll be seeking an answer. I will I would uh, like you to fill the blank of this particular sentence, and by posting in forum. So what will be there? So what is animal communication system? Okay, so what will be there? So I will be expecting your opinions, your views in there. Okay. Okay, so we are at the end, and the references were taken, and the information were taken from George Yule, The Study of Language. That is a textbook I recommended, and there are various sources as well. This information was taken from. So I believe there should be some questions. There should be some questions based on this PowerPoint presentation, and I hope to see those questions in the forum. So please do ask in forums. Please, not for asking, but you can join in the discussion. You can share your opinions, your views in there. Thank you very much for being here in this tough moment and to be present for almost last 30 minutes. So I would like to thank you for my core of, for from core of my heart. Thank you very much.